What is the mindset you need to make sure that you have to win in voiceover? Let's talk about it. Welcome back in, folks. Thanks so much for tuning in today. If you are a voiceover artist, you want to make sure you're following me right here, over here on these social media platforms. Make sure that you are doing that. Look, there's a mindset that you're going to need to have. I was just thinking back. I hope when I started this live stream, you didn't catch the cough. If you did, sorry about that. Anyway, I've been thinking today, actually literally all day, about this thing about mindset, about why some people win, why some people don't. Welcome in wherever you're watching me now, on YouTube, Facebook, wherever it is that you're watching this. Make sure that you do subscribe to the YouTube channel. Just go to youtube.com/Earl Hall Studio and you can subscribe to this YouTube channel as well. But I'm simulcasting today across all of my social media platforms. So I definitely want to thank everybody for tuning in and watching. Today, I've been thinking about an incident that happened with me, oh my gosh, 30 years ago, over 30 years ago. And it was back when I first joined the United States Air Force. It was one of the best things that I've ever done with my life, was that. And I've been thinking about it so long. Hey, Cynthia, thanks so much for being here with us today. It was one of the best decisions that I made. Was to join the United States Air Force. It taught me so much. It gave me so much of my beginning abilities that I still have yet to this day, of determination, drive, ambition, all those types of things. What I did in the United States Air Force is I was a survival instructor. I taught escape and evasion. I taught water and land survival, and I taught chemical defense. And I taught it to air crews. I went through 6 weeks of basic training, and then after that, I had 2 weeks of survival school that I had to go through up in Spokane, Washington, in the middle of November. And there was a key moment in all of my training that I realized what it took to win. It was one solitary moment of my life that taught me so much and still drives me to this day. 6 weeks of basic training, 2 weeks of survival school. I would have went through 6 more weeks of basic training as opposed to going through that 2 weeks of survival school. It was rough, but I had to go through it for the job that I had. What it entailed is that the first week we went through class and learned what we had to learn about some key things: navigation, using a map, surviving off the land, being a prisoner of war, a lot of different things that we had to learn because we had to teach it. The first week, all was classwork. Going into the second week, they dumped us in the woods. It's the middle of November. They put us in the woods and no food. We did have water. We had some rations. If you've never had military rations, oh my gosh. But anyway, we had to live off the land, middle of November, freezing cold in the mountains in Spokane, Washington. We had sleeping bags. We learned how to make our own shelters out of what was available. The good thing about military sleeping bags is that they are super warm. You literally have to come out of your clothes in those sleeping bags. You don't want to be fully dressed in there. You will burn up. Awesome gear. So we went through that for a week, trekking through the woods, learning to navigate, learning how to, call in helicopters, learning what things to eat, what things not to eat, how to determine what was edible and things of that nature. And by the end of that week, which was basically, I think it was a Thursday, if I recall it right, we went back to our base for a couple of hours, and then we had to go right back into POW training, which was the hardest part. Now, what you have to remember is that we've been out in the woods for a week, so we haven't really eaten. And so they pack us into a bus. And believe me, I'm getting to the point here because this is where you're going to really be able to determine if you're going to win at whatever it is that you decide to do. They pack us into a bus. We start driving this really bumpy trail, and all of a sudden there's this huge explosion that's in front of the bus. I mean, huge. All of a sudden, there are all these men in black uniforms with M16s running towards the bus. They hop on the bus. They're yelling at us, "Get your head down." They're hitting us on the head with the butts of the gun, of the rifles. And they're not playing. They put burlap sacks over our heads and got us off the bus, made us, put our hands on each other's shoulders so that we could walk. We could not lift the burlap bags off of our heads. And they escort us into this building, and then they take us out one by one and they start interrogating us. And we've been trained already how to handle these things, but look, this seems, this is pretty intense, especially for an 18-year-old kid, right? And so they sit me in this chair and they start asking me questions, and I'm recalling all the things as far as I've been taught in survival school about how to get away from answering questions when you're being interrogated. And they're asking me these questions and I'm answering them. They threw me off because, again, I'm disoriented. I am starved at this point, almost dehydrated, all these other things, which they did this on purpose. And, they ask me questions. They call out my hometown and they're talking about my family. And I'm like, Jesus Christ. And I'm so out of it. It's like I almost forgot I was in training. And I passed out. I literally passed out. I fell off the chair. Now, here's the kicker. I woke up to a soldier kicking me in the head. Wake up. Wake up. They sit me back in the chair and I literally passed out immediately again. They picked me back up. Now, we had a safe word, which was at the time flight surgeon. And if you said flight surgeon, they would know you were serious. Well, the person that was interrogating me just asked, "Do you need a flight surgeon?" I said, "Oh, yeah." And what evidently happened was they thought I was using a tactic to get out of answering questions, which that would have been a tactic. And so one of the officers came in and says, "Look, if you're not going to finish this training, we're just going to have to start you over from the beginning." Well, bull crap. I'm not starting this over from the beginning. They literally said it looked like you were faking, but I wasn't. I was not faking. I literally passed out. Then they put us in. So I got through that part and they put us in these cells. These cells were like maybe 4 foot, kind of like a vocal booth. It literally, that's exactly what it was. It was a 4x4 vocal booth. If you have a whisper room, you know what I mean. And so they put me in this cell and it had a window that they covered. And then they made you put that burlap sack back over your head again. And they said, "Don't lift the sack." And so what we were being trained to do was like listen and kind of figure out who the guards were, who would be soft, who wouldn't be. We had even learned ways to communicate, like back from the Vietnam War, where they would tap and things of that nature to talk to one another. And so there were all these things that I was trying to think about, and in that room, and they were playing all this weird music and stuff, like people screaming. They would play for hours, like a baby crying. It was psychological warfare they were using against us at the time. And believe me, there's a point to this. I'm telling you this whole story this way because this is where I got to understand that I could handle anything and I could do anything that I set my mind to. And at that moment, the only thing that I was concerned about was making it through this training, becoming an airman in the United States Air Force, being a survival instructor, being an aircrew life support technician, taking care of the air crews and things of that nature. That's all that that's what I was there to accomplish to do. They had us in the cell, told us not to take off our sacks off of our heads. It got hot. I lifted the sack and someone lifted the mirror or lifted the veil on my cell, and it was the guard, and he saw me and he said, "Get out." Now I want you to remember, it's November. We're in the mountains of Spokane, Washington. It's freezing cold. He says, "Take off all of your clothes." what am I going to do? I took off all of my clothes. He closed my cell door. The cell door opened back up, and they started spraying me with ice cold water. Middle of November, Spokane, Washington, in the mountains. Got through that. They put me in a box. I mean, I was scrunched in this box. It was just like a cube sitting on the floor, and I was in there for I don't know how long, but when they opened the door, because I was on punishment, I couldn't move. My legs were gone. I had no blood flow in my legs. It was just, I could not move my legs. They literally had to pull me out of the box. And going through all this stuff, now it's Thursday night. I went through all this stuff on Thursday. It's Thursday night. They put us literally in the POW camp, and we're going through the day. They're making us do chores, semi-torturing us if we didn't do things we were supposed to do, like doing push-ups on our knuckles, on rocks. There were so many different levels of what they would call torture, which was really nothing when you think about it, what people go through or have gone through in torture in different wars. But they would do that to us. They would try and re-educate us throughout the day on how bad America was. They spoke German. They insulted you as hard as they could. The only thing I guess they couldn't use was the N-word. So they would call us African. You know, the black people, they would just call us African. That didn't do anything to me. But anyway, I guess they couldn't say the N-word. But they would speak German all through the day. You know, we'd have these meetings with the commandant. He'd line us up, and he'd be standing on a stage or whatever outside. And they kept trying to get us to salute this flag that was not the our flag, the U.S. flag, and none of us would salute the flag. And so we kept getting punished, and we kept getting, hit or whatever. Things that we had to do, lay on rocks. I mean, when I say rocks, I'm not talking about little pebbles. I'm talking about rocks. Just all different levels of things that they would take us through. And we would try and talk to each other to try and encourage each other, but we'd get punished for that. There were just so many different things that we would go through during that whole day, and the re-education of our minds and things of that nature. Friday night, I get kind of emotional when I talk about this. Friday night, they lined us up in front of the commandant again. It's like 9 o'clock at night. We don't know when this training is going to end. We have literally no clue. There is no timetable. There is no, okay, you're done at such and such, and then you're going to be done. There was none of that. So we had no idea. It's about 9 o'clock or so. The commandant of this camp is furious. He's been trying to get us to salute the flag all day. We wouldn't do it. We've been getting punished. We've been getting semi-tortured and things of that nature. And he's yelling at us to a point where we are scared. I mean, I was scared anyway. And he's threatening death. He's threatening death. And he's yelling at us. I've told you guys, you have to salute this flag. We've already destroyed the United States. It's over. And through all the stuff that we've been through, from being in the woods for a week, not being able to eat, being dehydrated, being somewhat sick, going through torture, going through all these mental games that we have to go through, it was very, very intense. Very intense. And now he's threatening death if we don't salute this flag. So we're standing there, and he's saying, I am going to make you salute this flag. I am going to call you to attention. You are going to do an about face, and you are going to salute this flag. And if you do not salute this flag, you will die. It's a moment of truth, right? It was far beyond like maybe what you're thinking now. Oh, nothing would happen. They're not going to do anything. No, for us, it was far beyond that. We were in that moment. We were in that belief. We were in, they had brainwashed us to a certain point. But in that moment, every person that was with me, enlisted, officers, all of us that were going through the training, in that moment, I knew that each of us had made a decision. we're not going to salute this flag. Now, you may be going through some things, even in your career right now, where you think it's impossible. You think that something is against you right now. And I'm telling you, nothing is against you. You are the only one that is against you. No one else is. You are the only thing holding you back. No one else is. No one else is. And it comes down to making a decision that I don't care what happens, I'm going to win. And in that moment that this commandant told us that he's going to call us to attention and tell us to do an about face, and we will salute that flag. Each of us in that moment had made the decision. Each of us in that moment had made the decision, we're not going to do it. He called us to attention and said about face. Each of us did the about face, and as soon as we did the about face, each of us did this. It was the United States flag. That was there. Told you I get emotional. It was the U.S. flag. There was not a dry eye of about 30 people that were going through that training, because we knew that right there in that moment, we passed our test. It was over. We were who we signed up to be, a member of the United States Air Force. In that moment, everything that we had gone through, it was worth it. We were ready to serve. We knew we were ready, that no matter what, we were going to be the best damn soldier, the best damn airman possible. Years later, I still remember the officer's name, Lieutenant Novoveski. She was a person that went through with me through this same training. My first duty station was in Guam. And I was walking somewhere, and it was years later, and there was Lieutenant Novoveski, and we saw each other. There were no words. We just immediately ran towards each other and grabbed each other. It was the type of bond that with anyone that had gone through that training, you had. And the thing about all of that is, when you firmly make up your mind that you're going to do something, you let nothing stand in your way. You don't let anything hold you back, because everything that is within you can drive you to win. Everything you need is already in you, and you've got to put yourself to the test and say that no matter what, I'm going to win. I hope in some way, shape, or form this has inspired you to let you know that you can and you will win once you make your firm decision. Share this if you like. Please comment. Please let me know what you thought about this. I think this is one of the most real moments I've had on the live stream. Enjoy the rest of your day. Grind and don't quit.